Okay, and one is about inequality. Another article that I posted was about the case study of Himachal Pradesh with respect to disaster management on the geography channel. That part also will be forwarded. I'll forward that as well from the geography channel. Just check. Yeah, these are the three articles that are very important for the day. Even in the prelims channel, I posted one article about the statement from the minister about the removal of judges. The process of removal of judges is extremely important from prelims perspective. Okay, so these are the important articles for the day. I want you to go back and read them after today's class. Okay, read it in the way that I had posted. Read the hyperlinks also. Go back to those articles and read the hyperlinks which are tagged in that article. Now, quick look at the headlines. US adds a terrorist organization to terror list for Pahalgam attacks. See, when you are looking at the designation of terrorists, what is the importance behind that? The important takeaway. What is the important takeaway? Any guess? Does it have anything to do with finance part? See, in your GS3 syllabus, like I tell you every day, the first activity you should try to do is map the headlines to respective articles, syllabus pointers. GS3, money laundering. See if you can link this article to money laundering. Is there any they go to a household and ask, in the last 30 days, what did you buy? The problem here is, in the normal method, in this, when they ask only the 30-day period, they don't consider the durables. Or let's say you bought a fridge, you brought a car or a television or something that lasts longer. Anything other than food and fuel. Okay. In other method, they will only care about this large goods. So this MMRP method, which is the most utilized method, is taking both the durable goods as well as the consumption of the last 30 days. The criticism here is that this survey does not capture the rich. When you are trying to use this data to capture inequality, how come you are not calculating the consumption patterns of the top 5%? This is the biggest critique. Okay. This article writer is an economist who now tries to say that this sort of a black and white thinking, where we are trying to dismiss even the best possible data we have, is not warranted. And he gives us justification as to why we shouldn't be doing that. Okay, let's say the top 5% incomes are not, calculated or captured, or their consumption is also not captured. That's fine. But for the rest 95%, do we have enough data pointers to say inequality is reducing? And what are the strategies deployed through which we can say this inequality is reducing? So on two fronts we are supposed to know this. One is, what are the metrics or the data pointers which we can use to say, yes, indeed, even if we remove the top 5%, our inequality is reducing. And what are the strategies adopted by the government to facilitate this reduction in inequality? In this paragraph you will see the pointers. Okay, these pointers can be used despite your criticism that the top 5 percentages consumption is not taken care. Okay, so read this paragraph. There are many schemes by the government for poverty alleviation. Because of this, the gap between the incomes and the consumption has indeed reduced. This is the first defense of the criticism against the World Bank's method. There are international organizations like the World Inequality Lab which tries to oversimplify inequality, and this is picked up by media. For example, when we say Gini coefficient where the top 1% is taking away maximum wealth, that is before taxation. Nobody realizes this. If we actually calculate the top 1%'s taxation levels, it's as high as 42%. After you take this 42% and take a look at the state's role of redistribution, you are putting money away from one bracket and putting it in the hands of the bottom rung of the ladder. If you see the data closely, it is this section of the people that receive the maximum benefits through welfare schemes. Then how fair is it to say that the rich is taking away the wealth? Let's flip the coin and see, what do the rich have when they're paying 40% of the tax? In return, what are they getting? Maybe except security. So a capitalist would be thinking from a standpoint, I am going to get this security in any other country. Why should I pay 40%? Which is again a fair call. So the government should probably find out a middle ground. Talk about efficiencies and how we are spending money, where this redistributed income is actually translating into outcomes. Right. This is where the whole agenda of inequality. See, this is a criticism of inequality report. That's not going to be enough. We have to move one step forward and talk about how redistribution should find it, balance between both the bottom rung of the ladder and the top. That is not there in this article. So what are the strategies that will empower the top, as in the not empower per se, they're actually empowered themselves and they know what to do. So the state should not act as a barrier for new growth, new companies, new ideas, new innovation pathways. There should not be a roadblock, but rather a facilitator. At the same time, if there is a possibility of a crony capitalistic society taking over the agenda of redistribution, again that will be a problem. So on one hand, we are talking about inequality, we are justifying how this report is not completely showing the picture on the ground. And the other half, if you see what should we take away from this argument for the whole perspective of this country, the other side of the coin is that the top 1% might be paying 42% of the taxes. And they feel that it is unfair. In a country where we have to reap demographic dividend, it is important to take care of the capitalists in this country as well, but we are not trying to say that we should encourage crony capitalism. Market efficiency should be the priority of the government in a era where we are in a phase where we have to reap the demographic dividend. And just like how we spoke about in the case of green energy yesterday in China, state-led development should happen in those areas where private players do not have an interest. So we are combining the philosophy of yesterday and today and creating a whole narrative so that you know how to approach and create an opinion on the issues of economy. Is that clear, everyone? And that is the important point that you need to know. Linking yesterday's thought process and today's inequality agenda and create a complete picture of how economy should be like. It's about finding a fine balance between both the top 1%'s grievance and also the Gandhi's talisman, where the last mile service delivery is also taken care. It's all about transparency and mapping your activities to an outcome. A lot of wastage can be reduced just by tracking the outcome, and the way to do it is more democracy. It's linked to GS2, governance. And governance is in turn related to the quality of democracy and the institutions that govern us. So it all ultimately depends on the participation of the people. Clear? So just a quick recap of whatever we discussed. If people in GS2, polity, democracy and its values, if really people value this participatory governance, this combined with GS3, an economic model which gives something for both the top 1% and the bottom 90% and the middle whatever is there. Every section of the society feels like they are a participant in this growth story through a participatory democracy, where as a part of the social contract between the individual and the state, you have a two-way conversation where the state gives them rights, accountability, transparency, and the individuals participate in that by demanding that accountability as a duty. And this is how you will have a functioning democracy that thrives and creates an inclusive society. This is the whole picture and the narrative. Is it clear now? So this is how I want you to link different articles and apply it in different contexts. And for that, you need to have a framework of thought. Now, we have linked the quality of democracy, the concept of social contract to economy. And even in economy, only one half was discussed in this article. And I don't want you to stop at that. The takeaway from these articles are the data pointers to prove that inequality is wrongly measured. That's not enough to say that we are doing better. It's not enough to say we are doing better. Even in the process and even in the outcomes, there are some flaws. For example, in the process, what are the flaws? We do not have data on incomes. In a country that really boosts of AI, software engineers, data, governance, etc., it's sad that we don't have an architecture to capture real-time data. That is something that we need to work on. This is the second half of the story. Clear? Now this is done. This part, Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. This is like a flagship scheme. This is just beginning. So this is going to begin from October, but this flagship scheme is a game changer in terms of convergence of synergies of interest. Let me explain slightly elaborately. See, if you talk about the value chain of agriculture, you have inputs, then you have agricultural process, and then you get an output. Here, forward linkages start. As in, the set of activities that you need to do to take the product from the market, as in the market yards or from the farm to the consumer or the customer. This is the entire value chain of agriculture. At every point of time in this sector of economy, there is vulnerability. Why? Because let's begin with climate. India is a climate dependent agricultural nation, unlike countries like Israel, which defied most laws of nature by creating those technologies which focus on resource efficiency. And in a highly unorganized climate dependent sector, the vulnerabilities will only increase for the farmers. Correct. So how do we make these inputs affordable? By giving money. The fundamental problem of agriculture is that input costs are much higher than the revenue that they are generating, and therefore it is no longer treated like a proper business. Why? Because there are multiple reasons. For one, farmers are segregated. Land fragmentation is there. According to the agricultural census, 86% of the farmers are small and marginal, and when they are divided amongst themselves, they don't have a bargaining power. The middlemen, after this process is over at the farm level, farmers are incapable, or at this point of time do not have the financial capacity to garner all those resources and sell directly to the markets. Therefore, all the marketing activities of the output happens at market yard level in villages, at districts or mandals through APMCs. These middlemen take away most of the wealth that is generated out of agriculture. And what's worse, agricultural income is not taxable. They might register themselves as farmers, but they don't pay taxes. So it's like a fiscal vacuum that is left alone, and we need to fix that. This is the overall problem of agriculture. Am I saying that entire problem will be fixed by this umbrella scheme? No. Taking inspiration from Niti Aayog aspirational districts program. What is this aspirational district program? I'll talk about it. Consider the most backward districts in this country. Those backward districts are lacking in every possible parameter. Let's say, for example, health, education, sanitation, proper roads, name it, you have a problem there. What if our energies are focused on these aspirational districts to make them better? Because rural planning and development should ideally happen at panchayat level. But we know the problems of local governments where they do not have funds, functionaries, or the skilled people to get it done. So, aspirational district program is a program that emphasizes on a top to bottom level. That is, from the central level, you will have plans taken from the Gram Panchayat level, but the execution and the monitoring is done through the district collectors who report to the states, and therefore from the states to the center. So there is an accountability mechanism to the center rather than democratic decentralization. Why did the Niti Aayog, why did the government have to come up with this? Because these districts which are backward cannot be left alone. And indeed, these districts saw tremendous progress in the last 10 years. It's not even 10 years, maybe 7-8 years. Taking inspiration from the same model, the government decided that we will try to fix the problems of agricultural sector through this scheme, using the same model of aspirational districts through a plan that is developed by Niti Aayog. And the scheme's name is Pradhan Mantri Dhan Dhani Krishi Yojana, which is a scheme which tries to bring in under a single umbrella 36 schemes of the center and the state level and create a unified dashboard of 117 KPIs. On 117 parameters, they will monitor progress on a real-time basis. Imagine a dashboard which says, okay, input cost, this is the input cost, and therefore this is the action taken in this district. Like that, 117 parameters will be listed on a dashboard on a large screen, and it will be tracked on a real-time basis where each district officers and the respective stakeholders will participate and contribute to real-time data generation. It's like a mission mode project where continuously you are supposed to develop. There are targets, and those targets will make the district better in terms of agriculture. But the Prime Minister says that this is not the only objective, and in consonance with that view, even this article says that it is not enough to just create this kind of a plan, because we need to mobilize even private sector and investment into agriculture. There are many schemes on these lines where we are trying to empower the district level officers. We are also trying to give the support from the center. A case to the point being, there is a scheme called One District, One Product. At every district level, they are identifying a very good product which is famous in that region. Let's say mango is famous in some region. They want to develop an entire infrastructure or an ecosystem around that product and market it as something unique, so that it finds new buyers across the world. Maybe if it is so unique, even give it a geo tag or geographical indicator tag, GI tag. That is going to give sort of a monopoly on the identity. Recently there was this controversy about Prada using Kolhapuri chappal, which is a GI tag. In fact, officials from Prada came down to Kolhapur to see the designs. If those designs are actually used by Prada, they would be paying up money to, I don't know, whoever is holding that Kolhapuri chappals, which can be used again for the development of the industry therein. So by creating governance mechanisms like this, we are innovating for the world, we are marketing the products for the world, and you integrate agricultural sector, which is like the raw material provider, make it efficient, and then combine it with, let's say, a food processing industry or a commerce body, Ministry of Commerce. Under Ministry of Commerce, there are some things called export promotion councils. Tag these districts by creating FPO. See, this is not there in article, this is my own interpretation. So I'm just trying to create a vision for you so that you understand how to extrapolate the content and think about developmental agenda. Let's say agriculture becomes efficient, products are created. Now you have to market it. What should be the support from the government? You have schemes like this One District, One Product scheme. Combine that with giving farmer produce organizations some power. What are farmer produce organizations? I told you that 86% of the farmers in this country are small and marginal, meaning they have very small piece of land and they are too small individually to bargain with big corporates. What if they all come together, bring their produce together, create a company? That company is called FPO. And once they get that bargaining power, coupled with something like a GI tag, coupled with a scheme like One District, One Product, they have humongous bargaining power, not just in India but across the globe. And this can be possible only with states' capacity. Every time we think of jobs, most of the times we are thinking about the service sector, but the nature of service sector is it creates very few jobs even though they are of high value to the economy. knowledge economy. But what about this sector, the primary and the secondary sector, where in the rural areas anything apart from agriculture is virtually absent? If we have to contain the rural to urban distress migration, schemes like this are going to be extremely important. Right. And it is in this context this article is very important. Please read it. Okay. I think that's it for the day. These are the important articles that you need to study. Spend more time on these two articles: understanding inequality, the metrics of inequality, and understanding agriculture. Where does this article fit in the entire supply chain? Clear? That's it for the day.